There's an old story. A man is searching for his lost keys under a streetlight. A stranger stops to help. After a while, the stranger asks, "Are you sure this is where you dropped them?" The man says, "No, I lost them in the park. I'm looking here because the light is better." That's basically how most people search for themselves. Under the light they already know. There was a philosopher in ancient Greece who understood this before almost anyone. They called him the Obscure, not because he was confused. He wrote in riddles on purpose, in short fragments, so nobody could skim him and think they understood. Only about 100 of his lines survive at all, quoted second-hand by writers who often misunderstood him too. His name was Heraclitus, born around 535 BCE in Ephesus, a wealthy Greek city on the coast of what's now Turkey, home to one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Temple of Artemis. That detail matters more than it sounds like it should. Heraclitus came from the city's ruling aristocratic line. Tradition says he was actually entitled to a hereditary kingship, a ceremonial title tied to priestly duties, and he simply gave it away to his brother. He wanted no part of ruling people who couldn't rule themselves. He deposited his only book in that temple, the Artemisian, not in a library, not with a publisher. Ancient sources say he did this on purpose, so that only the serious would ever find it. Obscurity wasn't a side effect of his style. It was policy. And the one line everyone knows from him isn't quite what he actually wrote. "You cannot step into the same river twice." That's the popular version, smoothed out over centuries of retelling. What survives from Heraclitus is sharper. On those who step into the same rivers, different waters keep flowing. Not just the river changes, you do too, between one step and the next. He's not describing the water, he's describing you. One of his own students, a man named Heraclitus, took this even further, and it's worth knowing where the idea can lead if you push it too hard. Heraclitus decided that if everything is always in flux, you can't even step into the same river once, because by the time your foot lands, both you and the river are already gone. Aristotle later wrote that Heraclitus eventually stopped talking altogether and just pointed at things, since language itself seemed too slow and too fixed to describe a world that never holds still. Heraclitus likely would have thought that was taking a good insight and walking it off a cliff. That single line about the river is the seed of his whole philosophy. Everything flows. Panta re, as it's known. Though that exact phrase was actually coined later by people summarizing him, not by Heraclitus himself. Nothing holds still. Not the world, not you. There's a difference worth naming here. Superficial change is easy to accept. A haircut, a new job. What Heraclitus is pointing at is deeper. The structure underneath you is also in motion, not just the surface. We suffer, he thought, because we demand permanence from something that was never built to give it. We want a finished version of ourselves to finally arrive. That version was never coming. Arriving isn't something a river does. But if everything moves, why does the world hold together instead of collapsing into chaos? Heraclitus's answer is the idea he's actually remembered for. He called it the Logos. Not just logic, not just language, though the word gives us both of those in English eventually. The hidden order running underneath the change, the same for everyone, whether they see it or not. Although the Logos is common to all, he wrote, most people live as if they had a private truth of their own. Everyone hears it. Almost nobody understands it, before or after they've heard it. This word, Logos, would go on to have one of the strangest afterlives of any single term in Western thought. The Stoics, centuries later, built an entire physics and ethics around it, treating the logos as the rational fire that structures the whole cosmos. And later still, the opening line of the Gospel of John, "In the beginning was the Word," uses this same Greek term, logos, borrowing directly from the philosophical tradition Heraclitus started. Here, his thinking turns genuinely radical. Opposites aren't enemies, he said. They need each other, living and dead, waking and sleeping, young and old. It's the same thing, seen at two moments. Kill one side, the other means nothing. Day and night, war and peace, beginning and ending. A day with no night stops being day. Reality, in his view, doesn't exist through harmony in the usual sense. It exists through tension. Remove the tension, and you don't get peace. You get nothing at all. He pushed this to some genuinely strange places, and the strangeness is part of the point. Seawater, he wrote, is the purest and most polluted, drinkable and life-giving for fish, undrinkable and deadly for people. The value isn't in the water, it's in the relationship between the water and whatever's looking at it. Nothing is simply good or bad in itself. It depends entirely on what's standing opposite it. This is the ground under his most famous line. War is father of all and king of all. Not armies necessarily, though he lived in an era of constant conflict between Greek cities and Persia, and that backdrop shaped his imagery. Polemos, tension, two forces pulling against each other, and that pulling is what makes anything become anything. Conflict, for him, isn't a breakdown of order. It's the mechanism that produces order in the first place. His proof is almost gentle. A bow and a lyre, he said, work the same way. They only fire, or only sound, because two opposite tensions pull against each other right now, in this instant. Loosen either side, and you get silence. He picked fire as the symbol for all of it, not fire as a substance, the way earlier thinkers treated water or air as basic stuff. Fire as an event. The world, he said, was always and is and will be an ever-living fire, kindling in measures and going out in measures. He even claimed, and this genuinely startled his contemporaries, that the sun is new every single day, not the same fixed object crossing the sky on repeat, but something that renews itself constantly, moment to moment. The cosmos, for Heraclitus, isn't a thing sitting still that occasionally changes. It's an ongoing process, alive, active, transforming itself without pause. Other thinkers were hunting for something unchanging underneath reality, some fixed substance behind the appearances. Heraclitus said there's no floor down there. Stop looking for one. The burning is the thing itself, not a mask over something calmer. He had a rival on exactly this point. Parmenides, working around the same era in southern Italy, argued the opposite. Change is an illusion of the senses. Being is one, frozen, unchanging. And reason, not perception, proves it. These two split Greek philosophy in half before Socrates even arrives in the story, and arguably every philosopher since has been answering one of them more than the other. Plato tried to have it both ways, building a whole theory of unchanging forms, sitting above a changing physical world, essentially trying to give Parmenides the heavens and Heraclitus the earth. Modern science doesn't fully settle it either way. Most of your body's cells are replaced within a few years. You are, literally, a river, but the laws running that replacement don't change at all. Parmenides gets something too. Heraclitus thought almost nobody notices any of this happening to them. Most people, he said, live as if asleep, each stuck in a private world of their own, while the truly awake share one world in common. This isn't about physical sleep. It's the gap between merely seeing and actually understanding. You can encounter the Logos constantly, in front of you, every day, and still not recognize it, because recognizing it takes more than information. Heraclitus was suspicious of people who mistake accumulating facts for wisdom. Learning many things, he said, does not teach understanding, and he named names doing it, dismissing Pythagoras, Hesiod, and the historian Heraclitus as men who had piled up knowledge without ever waking up. You can know a great deal and still be asleep. The person who does wake up pays a price for it. Seeing clearly tends to isolate you, because everyone else is still operating on private opinion, still mistaking their own narrow angle for the whole of reality. The awake person can end up looking strange to those who remain asleep, and Heraclitus's own obscurity, his refusal to write plainly, may have been partly this problem in practice. Waking other people up is hard. Sometimes riddles do it better than clear statements do, because a clear statement can be nodded at and forgotten, while a riddle forces you to actually work. Ancient biographers claim he grew so disgusted with his fellow citizens that he eventually withdrew into the mountains entirely and lived on grasses and plants, which, true or not as literal history, tells you exactly how later Greeks understood his temperament. He earned another nickname for this, the weeping philosopher, supposedly because he reacted to human folly with sorrow rather than mockery, in deliberate contrast to Democritus, remembered as the philosopher who laughed at it instead. Then he turns the same uncertainty inward, onto the self. You could walk every road there is, he said, and never find the edge of your own soul, so deep is its logos. Not a nice line for a poster. A real claim. Whatever's happening inside you runs deeper than any account of it could ever reach. Knowing yourself, for Heraclitus, isn't separate from understanding the logos. The same order that governs the cosmos governs you, and the same difficulty applies. The deeper you look inward, the less certain your own boundaries become. Self-knowledge doesn't end in a clean answer. It ends in a wider question. He also left behind a line that later thinkers treated almost like a foundation stone for ethics. A person's character is their fate. Not the gods, not luck, not the stars. The patterns you keep repeating are, quietly, deciding your outcomes for you, long before any single dramatic moment does. Put it together, and you get one quiet payoff. There is a hidden harmony, he wrote, better than the obvious one. Not everyone getting along. The shape the friction makes, invisible from inside the noise. Real anyway. What looks broken or contradictory from where you're standing may be part of a larger structure you can't see yet, precisely because you're standing inside it. The bow and the lyre again. Harmony was never the absence of opposing forces. It was always what opposing forces make when they're held together correctly. This also explains why people talk past each other so often. Each person interprets reality according to what they already want to see, builds a private world, and mistakes it for the common one. Heraclitus thought wisdom requires moving past your own opinion towards something shared, something that exists whether you personally understand it or not. Living well, in his terms, means aligning yourself with that shared order instead of insisting reality conform to your private version of it. His influence didn't stay locked in antiquity. Hegel, nearly 2,500 years later, said flatly that there wasn't a single proposition of Heraclitus he hadn't absorbed into his own logic. Nietzsche went further, calling Heraclitus's picture of a world of pure becoming, without guilt, without a fixed judge, one of the most beautiful ideas philosophy had ever produced, and he built much of his own thinking as a kind of tribute to it. Even psychology borrowed from him directly. Carl Jung took Heraclitus's idea that things eventually flip into their opposites, too much order collapsing into chaos, too much control collapsing into loss of control, and gave it a name, enantiodromia, using it to describe how the human psyche rebalances itself over a lifetime. And there's one more fragment worth sitting with, stranger than the rest. Time, he said, is a child playing a game, moving pieces around a board. The kingdom belongs to a child, not a tyrant enforcing a plan, not a machine executing a program. Something closer to play, arbitrary and serious at once, the way a child's game is both. So what does this actually ask of you? Stop waiting for your life to hold still before you let yourself feel steady. It was never going to hold still. That's not a flaw. That's the design. Stop treating friction in an argument, at work, in a relationship, as proof something's broken. It might be exactly what's building what comes next. And the next ordinary day you catch yourself on autopilot, mistaking your habits for understanding. Take that noticing as the start of waking up. You were never the same person twice. Maybe the order you're looking for was never behind the chaos. Maybe it was inside it the whole time, the way a note lives inside the tension of a string, not underneath it. One last, almost unbearably fitting detail. Ancient sources, admittedly gossipy and unreliable ones, claim Heraclitus died trying to cure a case of dropsy, fluid swelling in the body, by covering himself in cow dung and lying out in the sun, hoping the heat would draw the fluid out. Whether that story is fact or later mockery from people who never forgave him for calling them asleep, nobody can say for certain, but it's hard not to notice the shape of it. A man devoted to fire, undone by his own body's water, trying to burn away what wouldn't hold still. Even his death, if the story is true, refused to resolve cleanly, which, given everything he believed, might be exactly the ending he'd have expected. Heraclitus never answered his own question. Leave it exactly as open as he did. If everything is always becoming something else, can you ever really say what a thing is? Or is asking that question the only solid ground you were ever going to get?